These are the lights I got for Victoria, the old Ford cab-over engine truck. They're new old stock. I love the patina on the box. Definitely sat around on a shelf somewhere, but these are pristine, and I wanted taillights that look a little bit more appropriate to the vintage of the truck. So I got these, and I'm gonna cut out some brackets and weld them on. These are the temporary trailer lights that I just put on here. And my thought was that I would mount these here, but there's not a lot of room between the, what is that, Mansfield bar drop, part of the hitch too, and the mud flaps. So I think what I'm going to do is make a box, a steel box that also covers the end of that 4x4, and then I will recess these in there. I think that'll look nice. So I think if it's 10 inches by 6.5, that will work well. That'll let me put the round light in over here and a backup light of some kind on the inside. It'll be well protected because it'll be recessed in there. So let me go in and pull up Inkscape. I'm doing this in real time, and we'll go through the whole process without any shortcuts. First, I need to make a box that is as wide and tall as I need. So I go to the rectangle tool, change my units to inches, change the width, and then change the height. I have to allow a little extra room for the bend, so it's not actually going to be as tall as my initial measurements. Now I'm duplicating this box. There are other ways of doing it, but I'm just duplicating the box. It's the right width. I'm going to make it shorter. I'm just dragging it, and now I will change the height to 3 inches so that that will be the fold down part that creates the sides of the box. The box will end up being 3 inches deep. Now go to duplicate, make another one of those and drag it down to the bottom. And it is stuck corner to corner with the first main box. We'll drag this one down. That one is a little off center, so I'm going to select all of these by doing Shift and click, and then I will go to my Align and Distribute menu and line them all up. Now they're all lined up side to side. Going to do the same thing, duplicate, drag that over, and make it narrower, and I want it 3 inches wide. So I change it to 3 inches wide, leave the height the same. I will duplicate it to make another for the other side. Drag it over and attach it. And there we go. Now I have my basic box shape. Now I need to create outlines, so I will select all of those. And I go up to Path, Union, and then click Enter to join them. Now I've got my basic shape. To allow room for the corners, when I fold these over, I'm going to put little 1/3 of an inch circular cutouts inside each corner intersection there. So I'm just making this a perfect circle. You can also do Shift while you drag to make the circle and constrain it to a perfect circle, but I'm trying to show you things without keyboard shortcuts that you can't see on the screen here. I'm just duplicating this. I need to make 4 of these. So I'll duplicate that, drag them roughly to each position. I want to go to outline, change my display mode so I just see the shape outline. I'll zoom in by hitting the plus key, so you have to hit shift and plus to zoom in. And now I'll drag these into the corners. And I want them on the inside of the corner, so it creates some space when the tabs are folded over. Now I go to Path and Difference. What I've done is I've selected the big shape and the small circle, go to Path and Difference, and you'll see that it cuts that circle out of the perimeter. Same thing, drag it to the position, select it, select the main shape by hitting Shift and then select to select both. 2 more times. Sorry about the repetition, but I want to do this in real time to show you how quickly you can create a thing. And the last one over here. Drag it to position, select it, hold down Shift while I then click the main shape as well. No, I've got both selected, Path and Difference, and it cuts that out. Zoom back out by hitting the minus key. And now I want to add my 4.5-inch circle, which will be the cutout for the light fixtures. Now I am holding Shift while I drag that out, and it makes it a circle. I'll lock that so that it keeps it a circle, and I just change it to 4.5 inches. Now I select that, the circle, and I want to align it vertically in the center of the box. So I do Shift and select both, use my alignment tool, and click that little icon. You'll see it raised it up. Now it's perfectly centered up and down. Save it as an SVG file, and that will be all I need. This is the file that we will import into SheetCam. We'll go back to SheetCam and I'll show you how we do inside and outside. So I'm going to do the same thing, File, Import Drawing, taillight box. All right, I want to cut this before I cut the outside, so I have to set those up as different layers. So let me click up here to Contours, Edit Contours, and I right-click on the outside line, move to Layer, and I'm going to make a new layer called Outside. And then I'm going to right-click on this one, which is now white, and make it a new layer. Call it, guess what? Inside. Could have called it Whole. Now I go over here to Operations. I want to create a new operation. And the first one I want to do is the hole. So I'll click Inside Offset, where I've got it set up so it'll start cutting on the inside and work out. That's all. It's just a preset. And then, where was I? So inside offset, and I want to click and do that on the inside layer. And I hit OK, and now my operation is here. And you'll see down here that it shows the little arcs. So it will start cutting inside the circle, go to the edge, cut around, and then come back out. So I end up with a pretty clean circle. Now I want to set up another operation to cut the outside. So I want outside offset, which just tells it to cut off the edge. And I want to cut the outside. layer. And there you go. So it's going to start over here in the corner. I could move that around. I can click starting point up here, edit start point. I could move that anywhere, but that works fine. So it'll start cutting here. It'll work its way around, and then when it gets off here, it'll dive off the edge again. So there you go. Now if I do File, Run Post Processor, I'm gonna do my G-code now by running Post Processor, call it taillight box, and save it. I know, lots of steps. I don't want to save that. The last thing I do now is come down here and open Mach 3. And Mach 3 takes that G-code file, so I want to load G-code. Which one? The one we just made, which is taillight box TAP. And now these are all the instructions that tell the CNC to move the plasma cutting head around and cut that shape out. So let me get the steel loaded on the table and we'll cut one. I have steel 3/16 plate loaded on the table, just a piece of scrap. And I realized that everything I just did was probably too small to see, but there are some really good online videos on how to use SheetCam and Inkscape and all that stuff. So I just kind of wanted to show you, that was real time, how long it takes to make something like this. So now I'm going to hit the reset button and I will use the manual controls to move the torch over to the corner down here, which will be a starting point. And then I will zero everything out. And once I do that, I can hit run G-code and cycle start, and it will start the program. So using the arrow keys, sorry, I gotta hit reset first. And the arrow keys, I can move this over. And that's the end of my travel. Let me reposition that sheet so I don't waste all this down here at the bottom. I have repositioned the steel so that I can cut pretty close up to the edge. I'll use page down. All right, that might be a good starting point, but I'm gonna bring the head up a little bit, and I like to do my travel up and just make sure I've got that sheet pretty well aligned. It's not angled, I'm not gonna cut off the edge. So let me come back here. That would be a good starting point. Let me bring that down. All right. Now I come up here and I click 0, 0, and 0. Now everything is zeroed out, and that is my 0 starting point right there. So now I have my plasma cutter turned on. All I have to do is hit cycle start. All right, you see what I did? I thought I had set it up to cut vertically, but instead it was set up to cut the box horizontally, and my sheet of steel wasn't wide enough and I oriented it wrong to do that. But at least I can check the fit of the hole cut out, and that'll work out well. Fortunately, I have enough to do the 2 I need. Cutting the taillight boxes, take 2. So first let me rewind the G-code here. So I start back at the beginning, and then I will do the reset. And then move the head over to the bottom left corner of my project piece. So about there, that should be good. Got to do the 0 again so I can get back to this spot. And then the same thing, cycle start. There you go, take 2. Now I just have to fold those tabs over and we'll cut one more out of here. It's loose, I just can't get under it to pick up. There we go. That'll be the box. Definitely don't need 3/16 inch steel, but it's what I had. I have my heavy gloves. This stuff is 3/16 thick, and I want a pretty sharp bend here, and I just can't do that even with a 50-ton press. Can't get a real sharp bend on that. So I'm going to score the back of these with a metal cutting blade, a grinding blade on my angle grinder, and that'll give me an opportunity to give some nice bends. And then, like I mentioned earlier, these holes in the corners just give you some room. Otherwise, you're trying to bend this piece up into that piece, and this will let me get a nicer corner on it. And I got my reading glasses on so I can see the detail, and my face shield so I don't end up with a big chunk of cutting disc in my face. swapped out the fingers. These are not long enough for me to bend it all the way, but at least I can get it started. And that's as far as I can go before the sides start to interfere. Well, it took just a little bit of tappy-tap love with the BFH to hammer down these ends after I got the crease started on the press. And then I welded up the corners, made sure I had a good kind of little bulbous bead there so that that's filled, and I will just grind this all down, give this a little sanding so it's sort of got the same patina, spray it with a little hydrogen peroxide, vinegar, and salt solution, and weld it in place. Actually, I'll weld it on there and then spray it. I did use the handheld plasma cutter to cut a hole in the end. That's for a license plate light that will shine down onto the plate. I cut off the temporary lights, which are just hanging down there. Those were just cheapo lights I got at Tractor Supply or somewhere. Not really the vintage look I was going for. And I have ground this down so I've got good clean metal to weld to. So I'll weld these in place and then pop in the lights. That, I think, is going to work out nicely. The lights here, those vintage signal stats, are just brake lights. I've got clearance, like parking lights, running lights that are coming that will go on the inside of those. They're also vintage, new old stock, but they are surface mount, so I'll just have to deal with that unless I find something that I can recess. But that's what it's going to look like. So to turn these rusty, I'm just using a sprayer I got from Home Depot. It's got one 32-ounce bottle of just plain old drugstore hydrogen peroxide, and about 2 tablespoons of white vinegar and about a teaspoon of salt. Give it a liberal dousing, keep it wet. The heat seems to help. And that's getting a nice surface rust already. You can see how rusty they are, and that's only been maybe 15 minutes sitting here. Just long enough for me to drill a hole and mount my little work and backup light, and then to just tack the temporary lights back on until I get these running lights. That way I'm legal and safe at night. But in the meantime, these will be fine. These will get their nice patina kind of locked in, and I'll wipe them off and then eventually go over them with a little bit of mineral oil just to help protect that. And that's all she wrote. To paraphrase Lieutenant Mike, I got nothing else for you. Come on, little buddy. You can do it.